Hey guys, hey, welcome to Embrace the Power Coastal Connection with me and my boy Mike G. We have Mary Reiser Todd here from all the way from California to talk about her veteran inclusion program that she's running at her company of MSC. It is an awesome to have you on the show, Mary. Welcome to the show.
Thank you, Ben. So grateful to be here. Just love all the work that you and Mike are doing and appreciate the opportunity to talk to you today.
Awesome. So, you know, me as an ex-soldier, oh, I shouldn't say that. I should say soldier for life, retired.
Forever.
So, you know, me and you've talked about the story about the chair that you had with with your husband and everything. But before we get into everything that makes you perfect about, you know, your passion to support veterans, want to know a little bit more about yourself, where you're from, what's your favorite food, and just, you know, a little bit about you and your professionalism. And then let's talk about why you want to support veterans.
Okay, excellent. So I'm an East Coast girl. I'm sure that you can hear that. I'm originally from Western Massachusetts. My career has been all Fortune 500, either senior executive leadership or doing what I do today, which is put together big international deals at the highest level, you know, really these national and international account programs. MSC is one of the largest distributors of maintenance, repair, and operational products. So we're squarely in the supply chain issues of today. We sell, you know, cutting tools, you know, the masks, abrasives, everything that a company needs to manufacture besides the raw materials is what we sell to our clients. And I work with customers like Nike and Smithfield Foods and Boeing and, you know, the largest and most important customers in terms of the corporate space. So I have an undergraduate degree in management, a master's degree in finance. As you know, Vince, I moved out here from the East Coast about 21 years ago and love living at the beach, as you do. And my favorite food is definitely Italian because I'm 100% Italian.
Awesome.
Yeah, pretty much, Mike. And yes, I do know how to make the pasta and the gravy or the sauce, depending where you're from and what you call it.
All right, so you know, Mary, me and you met many years ago on a plane, and we started talking, and you just told me about your passion for veterans, and then last year we actually started talking about your company, kind of doing what Amazon did about 3 years ago, and with their Amazon Warrior program of,
Yes.
and I went and spoke there about how they want to make sure they include veterans into their integrated into their workspace. So with you going with your Veterans Inclusion Act and circle, and you know what you're trying to do, what got your company to think, you know what, we need to do more about veterans?
So I really give credit to our CEO, Eric Gershwind, who is also the grandson of the founder of our company. So we've been, you know, Eric's grandfather started the company in essence out of the trunk of his car. Obviously now we're a Fortune 500 publicly traded, and Eric is currently running the company. And I really give him the credit for recognizing this diversity, equity, and inclusion initiative, really DEI. Some companies are calling it employee resource groups, but really the need for this level of diversity in our organization. And, you know, whether it was prompted by some of the issues that have been recent in our society, or, you know, what really got him started for us to kick this off this year, we did put these circles together in March. So we have a veteran circle, we have a Black inclusion group, and we have a women's inclusion group. And we recently just brought on a pride inclusion group. So we're super excited about this initiative. And I do believe it's really important in our society. Put aside the corporate piece. Vince, you and I have talked a lot personally and professionally. I think, you know, we've stood on the shoulders of the people who came before us. And now it's our turn to make sure that our children and the generations that come behind us stand on our shoulders. And if we don't stand up for this diversity, equity, and inclusion aspect of our whole society, let alone as a corporation, we're missing something in the legacy that we leave to the next generation.
Very nice, very nicely put. Question.
Thank you.
Mary, you say you work with Nike and all this stuff. How do you organize all this? Does it seem a little mayhem sometimes? Because you seem like a very busy person.
I
Just
am
how to
really,
put that out there. It's just like, man, all these companies, like, how does she?
I am really busy, and the DEI space, has really given us the second full-time job. We all laugh, but no, I mean, the main part of my job is to work with Fortune 500 companies and put these national programs together. But now this DEI piece has really taken some of us as senior leaders, and it really is another job, so to speak, but one that we just love doing. For me, I'm just a naturally organized person, Mike. I just grew up that way. I don't know why I'm like that. I remember once in one of my old jobs, a professional organizer was hired to come into the company. They walked over to my office, they looked around, and they said, "We're done here." And left. I opened my drawers, some things like,
That's a good thing. That's very good. I mean, you're A, B, C, and that's how you
yeah,
keep it going.
you got to keep it going. And especially, I
Amazing.
think, as a professional, you've got to be super organized. You're juggling a lot of different deals at the same time. Then you've got, your personal life. I raised a son by myself. You've got to really stay on top of things. So a lot of lists.
So, Mary, the one thing I would ask is this, so as your program grows, right, your Veterans Inclusion Circle grows, the one thing that I saw, like with Amazon and with other companies that I worked with when I was in the military and as I've gotten out is, the problem with a lot of veterans is they don't know do you exist. And so, like, even veterans that would like to get a job at MSC, how are you working with HR? How are you working with the other industries, with other offices within your corporation, to kind of get the word out so that you get the flavor of the qualified veteran that's looking for that next challenge or chapter in their life, and Army Reserve or National Guard. I never want to
Right.
forget about the two-time citizen brother and sisters, because they're
Yeah.
constantly always looking for a challenge.
No, and that's a great question. And we've already done a lot this year. So we're working on a lot of awards, because if you think about, if I'm Jewish or Catholic, you can't tell from looking outside. You can't, I mean, obviously you can tell I'm a woman, you can tell if you're a person of color, but you can't tell if the person was a veteran. So it is really important for us to have a culture and a set of programs that really cater to the veterans. So the first thing that we're doing at our company is we're part of the American Corporate Mentorship Program. It's called ACP. It's a program out of New York City. I've personally been involved with it for 3 years, and a number of our senior folks are involved in it. And what we do is we mentor people who are just getting ready to come out of the military. So they're typically at that 6 to 8 months, Vince. They know that their time is coming up. In essence, their date has been set, and then we start to work with them. For me personally, the vets I've worked with, the active military, I focus on their resume, their vernacular. How are they transitioning into civilian language and civilian discussions? And then I focus with them really about kind of letting go of some of the things, like one of the last women I worked with, I could even hear her over the phone, in essence, standing at attention. So I really spent time with her to just say, Darlene, now you're moving into a corporate environment. The meeting may not start exactly at 12 o'clock. It's going to start at 12:02, 12:05. You've got to be a little bit flexible, and, really just talking with her a lot about the vernacular. Then for my circle, my co-chairperson is Mike Gordon, and he's just stepping up to become our executive sponsor. He's a former Marine. So what we did is we focused in our circle on getting actual awards and badges that can go out on our website, so that active military and people transitioning know that we are a military-friendly company. We have a long way to go, but this year we got 3 really prestigious awards. So the first is the Military Spouse Employment Award. And what's really important about that is that military spouses face one of the highest unemployment rates in the country. And obviously the reason for that, as you know, Vince, is typically our military move. It's rare that they just go and get plunked into one city and stay for a long period of time. So when the spouse makes the equal commitment that the active military person does, they're now shifting around and having to, try to find employment. So we want to let our veterans and active military know that we're super friendly to spouses. Being a national company, we've got the ability to move spouses around. And now in today's virtual environment, we can even do more. Then we just got an award for the employer support of the Garden Reserve. And this is a really important program because we just signed the pledge. It's a Department of Defense program that really supports and promotes work environments that are specific to supporting active military and veterans. And actually, one of the people who was there for the signing of the ceremony, and he still was able to fit into his fatigues, he was so excited. He actually used that program when he was in the military. And then we just recently got the military friendly designation at the bronze level. And this is another Department of Defense program that lets military know that we are really actively looking and promoting for veterans. So the reason we only got the bronze level is because there's different designations that will let us work up to, the gold, platinum, and silver levels. So a lot about that, Vince, obviously coming out of the military. And then the last thing that we're doing, which of course Vince will be a part of, is we're doing a speaker series in the springtime. So for all of the diversity circles, we're going to be having outside speakers come in and talk about, in the example with Vince, what is it to transition? And how did he transition and become so amazingly successful, but really took all the benefits of the military career and then brought them into civilian life? And then for 2022, we're also going to do some training about PTS. And we've got our HR program formally reaching out to all of the military bases. So there's some pretty specific things that we're building out with human resources and with the outreach for this coming calendar year for 2022.
Very nice. So this is a side job compared to your regular job. See what I'm coming with this?
That's what I do with my extra time, Mike.
You're a very busy person. That's very impressive. I see it as it's escalating, and now it's escalating because it's like you're getting all these awards now. It's growing. Are you happy with the direction it's going towards? It's just like, what do you see the projection in like 5 years or so, if you have one?
So the trajectory this year has been that we've doubled the membership. And so now what we're doing, because you're right, it's too much for just a chair and a co-chair and some other people to handle. So we've got new subcommittees coming online this year and new folks who will kind of step up and help out. We've pulled in more of our HR people. We've got a formal mentoring program that we built out just for the military, but it will fall under the umbrella of overall mentoring, Mike. So those are some of the things that we will continue to build out. So it sort of spreads the burden and lets many people share in the success as well. 5 years from now, I see diversity, equity, and inclusion being at all major corporations. I mean, virtually every company I call on has a major initiative. For us, our CEO, Eric, signed a specific diversity and action pledge for inclusion, but a lot of other CEOs are doing that as well. So I see in a few years, everyone being involved in this, and it sort of being the new foundation and the new way that everybody does things, but it's just a standard of business. We won't be calling it out anymore.
Yeah, that's great. The Army, the military right now, but definitely the Army right now started a new program where they get 1 year or 6 months that they can go work at a company, and the Army pays the bill for the individual. So it's called the partnership program, the corporate partnership program. And so I have several friends already that have started transitioning from the military, but they are no longer wearing uniform. They're actually one guy's working at a brewery. Good friend of mine named Kyle Myers is working at a brewery because he wants to learn to make beer. is pretty awesome. And then I have
That's
another
awesome.
one that's working at another company, and it's the partnership program that big companies have gotten on board with the military now. So the military literally pays their salary and everything, allows them to go 6 months and work for a company. And then that company has a choice to either keep them on board or, give them that other skill set. And it's been a really successful program for the military. And if you guys haven't started that is something that I should really suggest that program you guys look into it, Mary.
No, that's something definitely. I think that one of our HR folks is already onto that now, but that program takes a little bit more time in the sense that we've got to get connected at all the different bases, but we definitely have an HR initiative around that. And because Mike stepped up from being the co-chair now to being our executive sponsor, he really wants us to lean into this, especially think about today's environment, right? We're all scrambling for employees, for associates, for workers. So we really want to take advantage of that and be able to increase our veteran and military population. We do have a number of folks who have come out of the military. We have one person who we're aware of who is active right now. He's actually overseas, but we really want to take advantage of the military and use that, bring that skill set into our company at MSC. We see huge value in it.
Well, because then the military gives you that opportunity of having that's a couple skill sets. One is always being on time.
Oh, it's on time.
But
Very well organized.
That's it. But Mary, and I'm gonna pass it over to Mike real quick here. But one thing I really want to ask you is that it's congratulations on the awards as you guys move forward, because those are big incentives that make a difference in the way our society views people, and definitely the military looking going forward to support as this wars wind down and veterans are starting to look for opportunities. I'm glad to see that MSC is an option for many of them. And then I'm going to pass the mic to Mike now.
Yeah.
Mary, it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. It's a lot of information, compacted. I want to see 6 months from now, 12 months from now, have you back and see how it grew, because this is unbelievable.
I would love to talk about it, because right now too, we're going to be bringing on the Veterans Administration to try to help us to get this PTS issue discussion talked about and to really start to publicize it in a way that lets people know that post-traumatic syndrome can occur from a lot of things, right? It can occur from being in a war and being exposed to combat and things like that. It can occur in your everyday life. There could be a trauma. You could have been in a terrible car accident. So what we want to really bring that to the forefront of our discussions, but to let people know, in essence, if you have an issue, you have a problem, it's a strength. It's brave to ask for help. It's not a weakness. It's not an issue. You're not making yourself look bad. You're actually showing strength of character and bravery and saying, hey, I've experienced this traumatic situation. I probably need a little bit of help here, or I'm struggling over in these areas. So that's something that we have to go a little bit more low and slow with, because it does involve human emotions. And obviously, there's a lot of HR implications and things like that, but we're already on it. We talked about it in our meeting this past week, and we're starting to make it super public to our entire population, because the circle does have a number of veterans, but also a number of allies as well.
Oh yeah, Mary, as you guys continue to shape the battlefield here, I like what you're doing. If you ever need any advice, even though I was low on the food chain, I could always provide advice.
I have called you a number of times for us in the spring. Mike, he's kidding. I literally, the minute they gave me this chairperson, Vince was my first phone call. I'm like, hey, they're asking me to do this. I'm probably going to need some help, advice, support. And Vince has been amazing. So.
And that's what friends are for.
Exactly. So it's been outstanding, but we're excited about the journey. And we are starting to connect with other corporations too. Like I was just at Clorox for some meetings. So I'm looking to get linked in with some of their folks. And we do have some of our clients that we're starting to connect with their DEI executives, and just to kind of share like, hey, what are you doing for your veterans? What are you doing for your Black inclusion group? How are you managing the women's group? What are you thinking about for disabled, Hispanic, Pride, all the different groups, and try to not make the same mistakes, but also if we can walk on some parallel paths and follow some roads that maybe other people have already been on, let's get that done. And let's do as much as we can for all the groups. It's not just veterans, it's for everybody.
You bring up a great point, and it goes back to history of people not wanting to deal with the past. But if we're going to shape the future, and even in the 21st century, I tell everybody I talk to when I have to speak is that if we'd have just learned a few things or acted on a few things, we would be a lot further along.
Yeah.
So as you're looking at your company, it's a breath of fresh air to see you guys rising to where you're going. And you know what, Mary, don't stop. And the thing I think that's more important is that it's not just about, it's about the human condition. It's about the human network. It's about associative thinking of making the environment better. And when you make the human environment better, people want to come to work. It's not always about money. Sometimes it's about people just caring about the fact that you're there,
Well, there's a book that Dr. Stephanie Johnson wrote, and she spoke to all the inclusion circles maybe a couple of months ago. We had an internal diversity day, and the book is called Inclusify. And so she received a pretty prestigious grant. And what she has proven and talked about is the correlation between when people feel included, how much happier they are, and how much more often they will stay with a company. And that when people feel excluded for any reason, right? I just don't fit in the clique, or you all knew each other before I came on board, and so I don't really get invited to lunch or to go out to drinks after work and things like this, I'm far more likely to leave the company. And
yes,
so
I agree as a manager,
right?
as an IT project manager. I agree. Vince can tell you. I'm like, I don't understand. You got to give a little bit to the employees, make them feel good. They're going to stay longer. They're going to their job diversity, momentum, and drive is going to be on impeccable. And it's the little things that you give the employee, and people don't understand that. I'm glad you said that. That's what
it is. And it's things too, like when I talk to you, like, I mean, I know you and Vince, so I know that I'm able to call you Mike and I'm able to call Vince instead of Vincent. But it's just saying, like, do you go by Mike or Michael? What is your, preference for how you want to, because people at work, they don't call me Mary, they just call me MRT. Well, that's just a given at the company. Like, nobody calls me Mary. No one.
MRT's coming. MRT is coming.
It's just like, oh yeah, that's MRT. Just work with MRT. She's got that. But it's just knowing what's acceptable, or like, what are your pronouns? Because if you're whether you're in the Pride community or not, you may not go by he or she. So it's just asking those little things that signal I'm interested in how I communicate with you. I'm paying attention to what's important to you. And then when you're in a meeting, if the person isn't speaking, like if I didn't hear from you in the meeting, I'd be like, gee, Mike, you've been kind of quiet today. What do you think about this? So we want to really at least draw people in. So it's some of the basics that make people feel included, but it's also, I think it's one of the things that this, DEI effort is teaching our society, is to try to be nicer and more inclusive. We've all had our moments. Let's not do that again.
So how does any veteran that watches this, which some probably will watch it, so one thing is, how do they find out about your company? And do they go to your website? And I think Mike has it, if you can flip it up. Do they just go to the website and then find contacts and then send their resume in, or do they go through LinkedIn? But what's a good way for someone if they see this podcast and they're like, wow, MRT just laid it out. So how do I get they like veterans? So how do I get in a veteran-friendly company? So go ahead, Mary.
So it's just mscdirect.com is our website, and you can just go on and go right into the careers page, and we've got all our jobs posted. We are super proactive on LinkedIn as well. So same thing, you can follow us on LinkedIn and you can be able to get into our website that way. And there's Eric right there, probably talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. But yeah, we are absolutely dead serious about working with, definitely our military and our veteran community. And we really want to promote getting those folks to work with us at MSC. We have openings everywhere in the United States. I mean, just like most companies right now, we have a lot of openings. So if you're interested, please apply.
Oh, you know what? You brought a great point up. So let me ask this question, because I was listening to NPR the other day, and the big argument now is that because post-COVID, so many people now want to work from home and remote. And so the question I have for you now is how does that affect you guys, even though it's a little bit off topic, but since you're up at that level where the air is thin, I wanted to actually ask you that question because NPR actually had a really good discussion about that. So from your perspective, post-COVID, what does the world kind of look like now at MSC?
So right now we've got people working, our customer fulfillment centers where our product actually comes from. Obviously, people are still there working in person. There's a number of us who always worked remotely and who will still keep working remotely. We were going to be having everyone come back in January. The folks who wanted to go back into the office can. I don't know with Omicron this year or this week if we're going to see any changes, maybe a delay in that. But we do have corporate headquarters both in Long Island, New York, and Melville, and then outside of Charlotte and Davidson. So we will have people be going back into the office, but we have a good number of folks who are still working remotely. For people like me, I typically am working with people like you and Mike. So there's a lot of Teams calls all day, Zoom calls. Clearly travel is, not what it used to be. And a lot of our clients are still going to continue to work remotely. So we have to, in essence, do and work the way our clients want to work. Recently, I have been out to some client meetings because customers are allowing us to come in. But if they say that we still can't, we just do everything by Teams and Zoom, and we're doing great.
Hey, well, Mary, as usual, I want to say thanks before I close it out with you and everything. Mike, you got anything?
It's been a pleasure, Mary. It's been a pleasure.
Always a pleasure.
You're dynamic.
With
You're dynamic. Thank you. Hopefully we get you back on and see how everything was working out with this project.
I will come back whenever you want me. Vince knows my
you.
schedule is his schedule. He just says, MRT, this is the day, this is the time, and he knows I'll be there for him.
Yeah, this was a very dynamic, you're a very dynamic person. A lot of information, a lot of projects, and you deal with big boy stuff. And I said big boy stuff, guys. Yeah.
Well, thank you.
But it's been a pleasure. Hopefully we meet again. Thank you for coming on Coastal Connections. Vince?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. So MRT, Mary, as always, you are a dynamic person, and you're a trailblazer, and you are an influencer for so many people, not just men and women, but everybody, anybody you impact. So I know it didn't sound right, but it sounded crazy, but you're an influencer. But I just want to say, hey, thanks for coming on today and taking the time and laying it out with your Veterans Inclusion Program and the other programs that your company is running, because I think people need to hear it. It needs to be promoted, and people need to be aware instead of working off sound bites and what they see on social media. And with that, as me and Mike always say, thank you for coming on, and keep it rolling.
Thank you for having me, and I hope that you both have happy holidays.
All right, you as well.